What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTP Ravens Media. This is, of course, the Truz the Bank podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check out the podcast platform. We try and do this every single Wednesday, put out a podcast, especially in the off season, talking about everything Ravens news. We like to ask you guys, questions that you want us to talk about. We also have some topics of our own that we feel like are going to be pretty interesting. So, kind of overall, we're going to talk about coaching because the Ravens hired Willie Taggart. T. Martin ended up switching coaching positions, moved on from Steve Saunders. We'll move on. We'll talk about free agent wide receivers because Robert Woods was released today. Talk about potentially bringing him in. Talk about Ravens roster at wide receiver as well and who we think is going to be here next year. And finally, we're going to get into kind of the draft and, maybe what are the chances that the Ravens Raven and they go best player available, which is not a position of specific need. Somewhat like what we did last year when we drafted Kyle Hamilton. What are the chances that we don't go wide receiver corner in the first round? And we may have another topic as well if we're feeling it at the end. So we'll see how it goes. Let us know in the comment section down below all your thoughts and opinions on everything we talk about. And if you want to see the rest of it, go check out the podcast platforms. It comes in video format as well. So if you're watching on Spotify, you can literally watch it or listen to it, on your way to work or whatever you're doing. We appreciate you guys no matter what. But Joshua, let's get into it. The Ravens have announced that they've hired Willie Taggart as the running backs coach. Let's talk about him first. How do you feel about that hiring to take over for, leading that running back group of J.K. Dobbins and Gus and all those guys?
I mean, honestly, it's a huge deal, man. When you hear about the movements of Willie Taggart coming into the Ravens organization, especially with Baltimore being a run heavy first team, and us having a premier guy like J.K. Dobbins and a backup guy of Gus Edwards, it really truly speaks to what the atmosphere that's about to change and the philosophy that's about to be imploded into this Ravens organization, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I definitely won't steal some of the highlights of Willie Taggart's career, because I know you got I know the vast history about Willie Taggart, so I'll leave that to you. But I definitely feel like this is a good addition as far as his coaching staff, especially even moving T. Martin to a QB coach who has winning experience as a QB and also as an offensive coordinator, even though it was on a collegiate level, but still he's been around the league. He has the respect of NFL players, and he can make some things happen. So I'm looking forward to seeing, with these new additions, how they're going to help out this Ravens upcoming offense this year. But McConnell, just tell me a little bit about Willie Taggart's, track record.
Yeah, so Willie Taggart, the reason why he was brought in was, guess what? It was Mr. Jimathan Harbaugh. He coached underneath Jim Harbaugh, and it was brought up to, John Harbaugh, like, hey, why don't we go look at this guy? Because he was the running backs coach at Stanford back in 2007 through 2009. If you guys didn't know, I'm a Stanford football fan, and I heard he was the running backs coach under Jim Harbaugh, and I went, oh, really? That's what I want to hear. Because if you guys didn't know, Jim Harbaugh basically created the Stanford football program in the 21st century. They were not competitive. They were not good. They got routed basically every game. Jim Harbaugh came in and was able to turn them into they had an identity, and it was, we're going to smash mouth football, and then we're going to throw the ball a little bit to tight ends. But with that came Willie Taggart, and he was the running backs coach. So when he came in 2007, they had a young sophomore running back who was their number one running back. His name was Toby Gerhart. Toby Gerhart started off, and he was pretty slow, and he was just kind of ramping up because they were building that identity. In Taggart's final year, 2009, Toby Gerhart had maybe the best single season in Stanford football history, rushing for 1,800 yards, getting second place in the Heisman. And getting second place in the Heisman is already a great feat. It was the closest second place in history, but this is a Stanford team that went 8-5. Like 8-5, and they had the second place in Heisman. When do you ever hear that for a team that's not, like, Heisman's always, oh, they lost one game, they lost two games. No. Toby Gerhart was so dominant that they were like, that he almost beat out Mark Ingram, the running back for Alabama, who probably went undefeated that year. I haven't looked it up, but come on, it's Alabama. They probably went undefeated. Absolutely dominant over there. So he really helped build up that running back room, and the running backs that came up underneath Gerhardt, they ended up succeeding as well after he left. Guys like Stephon Taylor, who ended up making the NFL, and Tyler Gaffney, who Oregon Duck fans know Tyler Gaffney. Tyler Gaffney was insane, but then he ended up, kind of switching over and moving to Western Kentucky. Interesting enough, I just read this this actually on Wikipedia, but they had a major losing streak, and he took over, and they actually had a pretty good season, which is props to him. But I want to talk about University of Oregon when he was the head coach there, 2017. This is right after Chip Kelly left. It was Mark Helfrich. And then after Helfrich left, it was 1 year of Willie Taggart. This was an era of the Oregon Ducks where they were kind of falling off, but they got a new young guy. His name was Justin Herbert. And they had Royce Freeman as the running back, and they were pretty solid. They ended up going 7-6. Again, he wasn't amazing, but what we're looking for him to coach the running backs. Royce Freeman in that year had 1,400 yards and 16 touchdowns. Royce Freeman ended up becoming an NFL running back, played for the Denver Broncos for a while, a couple of years ago. So, this is something that we're looking at specifically is how well did they run the ball? They ran the ball pretty well, which I like to see. And then he took over. He's been the FAU coach for the last couple of years, their head coach, and they're not putting up amazing numbers or anything like that. But he has head coach experience at big programs. He has head coach experience at small programs. And the best part about this hiring is we're going to the college level, right? This is a theme for the Ravens, is they're not bringing in NFL guys, they're bringing in college guys because their record, Todd Monken talked about it in the press conference, is like, the NFL is adapting. It's evolving. And the Ravens aren't going for guys that have been in the NFL. They want to see, okay, you've seen this the last few years. How has running the football worked for you? How has passing worked for you? Because that's what we need to go to. And he's only ever coached in college football. And now he gets to join a really good staff with a good roster. Because when he's had good players, right, he's not like he was coaching, had the best programs. When he's had good players, he's made them work very hard, and they've done very well. And now he gets J.K. Dobbins, a very hungry running back that wants to take the league by storm. So I'm super excited about it. I was very happy with the signing. Joshua, is there anything you think I left out, and kind of the things to point out?
Man, when you said Florida Atlantic, what years was it? Because I thought he was there when Alfred Morris was there. And Alfred Morris, he was another one that took the NFL by storm. I mean, if he was there where Alfred Morris was there, like, whew.
He was there 2020 to 2022. He was initially at Western Kentucky for like 8 years before Stanford. And he did a very good job over at Western Kentucky. And then he went back and became their head coach.
Right. Well, I mean, that's it for me, man.
Yeah. And, just real quickly on T. Martin, that's something that I really like because, Joshua, you brought it up. He's won at the collegiate level. He won a national championship.
Exactly.
And when you're looking at Lamar Jackson, the Ravens are putting winners around him, right? Hey, Lamar, your quarterback coach is a quarterback that won the national championship in college. Hey, your offensive coordinator just won back-to-back national championships in college. We got rid of Urban. We now have, a guy with real pedigree and a guy that's coached at big programs in T. Martin. So I think it's really, really, oh my gosh. I just found out that he played for Jack Harbaugh in college, Willie Taggart.
Oh, yeah, you know that? Yeah, he's been around the Harbaughs for a long time. Yeah, most definitely.
Okay. But yeah, I think like putting winners around Lamar Jackson is always going to be good. And we're not going to try and talk about Lamar Jackson's contract situation, and numbers or anything like that. But I think we're trying to convince this guy to stay. We're putting winners around him. That's what he wants to be around. So he doesn't want guys that can't do anything. We're putting guys that have played at the collegiate level. We're putting guys that have coached very well and done very well, especially around John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh. I think all of these hirings are pretty good. And I'm pretty happy with how things have gone so far.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree with you. It's you know what? I know some people are excited for, the nuance of what it possibly can be, this upcoming season. And I'll say this, we've been talking about it. We've been talking about it so many times. It starts with the coaching and then the level of players. And unfortunately, it's happening during Lamar's contract, year, and him being a free agent. Um, but hopefully, with all these improvements to the coaching staff, hopefully, when March hit, we'll see more improvements to the roster. That eventually a deal will get done, whether it's a franchise tag or a long term deal for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and we're going to find out what happens there.